Washington, D.C. In a stark warning that is sending shockwaves through military and intelligence circles, a retired United States Army Major General is sounding the alarm over reports that China may be considering the sale or transfer of advanced air defense systems to Iran. Speaking exclusively to our network, the general described the potential move as not merely a diplomatic irritant, but a direct and credible threat to American military personnel, strategic partners, and broader U.S. interests across the Middle East. The warning comes at a time of already heightened tensions between Washington and Beijing, with the two superpowers locked in a fierce economic and technological rivalry. Add Tehran to that equation, a nation that the United States has labeled a state sponsor of terrorism, and the stakes could not be higher. If China transfers sophisticated air defense technology to Iran, we are not just talking about a weapons deal. We are talking about a fundamental shift in the threat environment that every American soldier, sailor, and airman operating in that region will face. Iran has long sought to modernize its air defense capabilities. For decades, its military has operated aging Soviet-era systems that, while occasionally effective, remain vulnerable to the superior technology fielded by the United States, Israel, and other regional powers. The possibility that Beijing could fill that gap with state-of-the-art systems, potentially including variants of China's HQ-9 long-range surface-to-air missile system, or more advanced radar and interception technologies, has alarmed Pentagon planners and regional commanders alike. China and Iran have deepened their strategic partnership in recent years. In 2200, the two nations signed a sweeping 25-year cooperation agreement worth an estimated $400 billion, covering trade, energy, and security sectors. Critics at the time warned that military cooperation was an inevitable and dangerous next chapter. And now, those predictions appear to be coming true. Key facts at a glance. China and Iran signed a 25-year strategic cooperation deal in 2021, valued at approximately $400 billion. Iran currently relies heavily on aging Russian S-300 and domestically modified air defense platforms. China's HQ-9 system is widely considered comparable to Russia's S. The U.S. maintains tens of thousands of troops across the broader Middle East region, including in Iraq, Syria, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar. Israel, a key U.S. ally, has conducted hundreds of airstrikes on Iranian-linked targets in Syria and beyond. What exactly would Chinese air defense systems change on the ground? Quite a lot, according to military analysts. Iran's current air defense network, while layered, contains significant gaps, particularly in its ability to detect, track, and engage high-speed, low-observable aircraft and precision-guided munitions. A transfer of advanced Chinese radar systems and surface-to-air missiles could close those gaps rapidly. The retired Major General elaborated on the specific threats this would pose. American aircraft operating in or near Iranian airspace, whether conducting surveillance missions, supporting Allied operations, or responding to a crisis scenario, would suddenly face a dramatically more lethal environment. Beyond aircraft, advanced air defenses complicate the ability to conduct the kind of preemptive or retaliatory strikes that have been a cornerstone of U.S. deterrence strategy in the region. Perhaps most critically, Israel, America's most important security partner in the Middle East, would face a significantly degraded ability to conduct airstrikes against Iranian nuclear facilities or weapons convoys. Operations that Israeli officials have repeatedly stated remain on the table as a last resort. This could embolden Iranian aggression, accelerate its nuclear ambitions, and destabilize an already fragile regional equilibrium. This is not just about Iran being harder to hit. This is about Iran feeling more confident, more protected, more willing to take risks it would never have taken before. That is the real danger here. The psychological and strategic emboldening of a regime that already sponsors proxy violence from Yemen to Lebanon. Why would China take such a provocative step? Analysts point to several overlapping motivations. First, Beijing has a clear economic interest in deepening its energy relationship with Tehran. Iran holds some of the world's largest proven oil and gas reserves, and China is its largest customer. Supplying weapons and military hardware is a way to cement that relationship and ensure preferential access to Iranian energy for decades to come. Second, there is a strategic logic at play. China views the United States as its primary geopolitical rival and competitor. Anything that stretches American military resources, complicates American planning, or forces Washington to divert attention and assets away from the Indo-Pacific, Beijing's primary theater of interest, serves China's broader strategic interests. In this sense, arming Iran is not simply a bilateral transaction. It is a move in a far larger global chess match. Third, China has consistently argued that it operates independently on matters of arms sales and military cooperation, rejecting what it calls American interference in its sovereign decisions. Beijing has repeatedly criticized Western sanctions against Iran, arguing they are unilateral and illegitimate under international law. The transfer of air defense systems could therefore also serve as a pointed political statement, a demonstration that China will not be constrained by Washington's preferences or its sanctions regime. The prospect of a Chinese-Iranian air defense partnership is not sitting well with American allies across the region. Officials in Riyadh, Tel Aviv, Abu Dhabi, and Amman have quietly raised concerns through diplomatic channels. According to sources familiar with the discussions, Gulf states that have spent billions on American-made Patriot and THAAD systems are now questioning whether those investments will be enough in a threat environment boosted by Chinese technology. Israel, for its part, has reportedly communicated its deep concerns directly to both Washington and Beijing. Israeli officials understand better than most what a more capable Iranian air defense network would mean for their operational freedom, and for the ongoing, years-long campaign of airstrikes that Israel has used to interdict Iranian weapons shipments to Hezbollah and other proxy forces. Potential impact across the region. Israel. Reduced ability to conduct preemptive strikes on Iranian nuclear sites and weapons convoys. Gulf states' heightened anxiety over Iranian capability to project air power and deter counterstrikes. U.S. forces. Elevated risk profile for aircraft and drones operating in or near Iranian airspace. Iran's significantly enhanced deterrence posture and increased strategic confidence. Nuclear negotiations. Diminished leverage for Western powers in any future diplomatic talks with Tehran. The Biden and now current administration has made it clear that any Chinese military transfer to Iran would be met with severe consequences, including expanded sanctions targeting both Chinese and Iranian entities. U.S. officials have privately warned their Chinese counterparts that such a move would be seen as a direct threat to American national security interests and could permanently damage U.S.-China relations in ways that go far beyond existing trade and technology disputes. Congressional leaders from both parties have called for emergency briefings from the Pentagon and the intelligence community. In rare bipartisan alignment, senior members of the Senate Armed Services Committee and the House Foreign Affairs Committee have jointly called on the administration to make clear to Beijing that there will be swift and overwhelming economic and diplomatic consequences if the transfer proceeds. We have told China in no uncertain terms this would be a red line, not a metaphorical red line, an actual one. The administration is prepared to act. Defense analysts and think tank scholars are divided on whether China will ultimately follow through. Some argue that Beijing, despite its rhetoric, remains cautious about steps that could trigger major Western economic retaliation at a time when its own economy is under significant strain. Others point out that China's behavior over the past several years, from its militarization of the South China Sea to its tacit support for Russia's actions in Ukraine, suggests that Beijing's risk appetite has grown considerably. What seems clear is that the coming weeks will be critical. Diplomatic backchannels are reportedly operating at high intensity. Intelligence agencies on multiple sides are watching closely for any signs of hardware movement, technology transfers, or accelerated military-to-military exchanges between Chinese and Iranian armed forces personnel. The retired Major General, who served in senior command roles across the Middle East and Asia during his career, closed with a sobering assessment that spoke to the gravity of the moment. We are at an inflection point. The decisions made in Beijing, Washington, and Tehran in the coming months will shape the security architecture of the Middle East, and quite possibly the entire world, for the next generation. We should not underestimate what is at stake. As this story continues to develop, our network will maintain close contact with U.S. military officials, intelligence sources, and diplomatic correspondents across Washington, Beijing, Tel Aviv, and Tehran. The question of whether China will supply advanced air defense systems to Iran is no longer being discussed in hypothetical terms. It is an active, urgent, and deeply consequential crisis unfolding in real time. For our viewers watching from home, one thing is certain. The outcome of this standoff will define not just American foreign policy, but the future of global security for years to come. This has been a special report. Stay with us for continuing coverage.